Looking for magic cards? At flipsidegaming.com you can now use the promo code LVD to get a 10% discount on orders over $10 while supporting the channel at the same time. Hello and welcome to another episode of Spike Sunday, a weekly series where we take a look at established standard or modern decks, and this week we're taking a look at Bant Spirits in Modern, a spirit tribal deck that tops off its curve with Collected Company. So let's dive right into it here, starting out with our 1-drops, where we have a total of 5 mana creatures, 4 copies of Noble Hierarch, which taps for all the Bant colors, and also has Exalted, so if one of our creatures attacks alone, it gets +1/+1 for each instance of Exalted until end of turn, and also 1 copy of Birds of Paradise to have that 5th mana creature to help us accelerate out our creatures. Then we have 4 copies of Path to Exile as our removal spell of choice, and 4 copies of Mausoleum Wanderer, which is a 1 mana 1/1 spirit with flying, and whenever another spirit enters the battlefield under our control, the Wanderer gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and we can sacrifice a Wanderer to counter target instant or sorcery unless its controller pays X, where X is Mausoleum Wanderer's power. So the more Spirit Lords we have in play and the more spirits we've cast, the better the taxing ability on the Wanderer. Then we get to our 2-drops, where we have 4 copies of Supreme Phantom, a new addition from M19, a 2 mana 1/3 spirit with flying that says other spirits we control get +1/+1, so a nice lord for the deck. We also have 3 copies of Selfless Spirits, a 2 mana 2/1 flyer that we can sacrifice at any point to make our creatures indestructible until end of turn, which is great against sweeper effects. We also have 4 copies of Rattlechains, a 2 mana 2/1 flyer with flash, so we can play it at instant speed, and when a Rattlechains enters the battlefield, target spirit gains hexproof until end of turn, so great at protecting our spirits from spot removal spells. And if Rattlechains is in play, we can cast spirit spells as though they had flash, so suddenly all our spirits can be cast at instant speed, which is a nice benefit. And then we also have 2 copies of Phantasmal Image, which enters the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, but if the image becomes the target of a spell or ability, we have to sacrifice it, so that's the drawback to get a 2 mana clone. But Phantasmal Image combines very nicely with Drogskol Captain, a 3 mana 2/2 flying spirit lord, giving our spirits +1/+1 and hexproof. So if we can copy a Drogskol Captain with a Phantasmal Image, then both the Phantasmal Image and the Drogskol Captain itself will have hexproof, which means our Phantasmal Image won't be able to be targeted by spells or abilities, which kind of offsets the drawback. And of course, if we can just get 2 Drogskol Captains in play, that also works, so that's great against any spot removal heavy deck. And then we also have 4 copies of Spell Queller, a 3 mana 2/3 spirit with flash and flying, and when Spell Queller enters the battlefield, we can exile target spell with convert mana cost 4 or less, so kind of acts like a temporary counter spell, since when Spell Queller leaves the battlefield, the exiled card's owner may cast that card without paying its mana cost. But of course, the idea is that our opponent will never get rid of Spell Queller thanks to all our other spirits protecting it. We've got the hexproof from Drogskol Captain, the indestructibility from Selfless Spirit, Rattlechains can jump in and give hexproof, we've got the Wanderer that can counter instants and sorceries, so we've got a lot of built-in protection. And then last but not least, we've got 4 copies of Collected Company, the main reason to play green, a 4 mana instant that says look at the top 6 cards of your library, and then you can reveal up to 2 creature cards with convert mana cost 3 or less and put them on the battlefield. And of course the entire deck is creatures with convert mana cost 3 or less, so we're very likely to find 2 powerful creatures. And then the mana base, we've got a total of 9 fetch lands, 3 Windswept Heath, 3 Misty Rainforest, and 3 Flooded Strands, to go along with 3 basics, 1 of each, 1 island, 1 forest, and 1 plains, a total of 4 shocklands, 2 Hallowed Fountain, 1 Temple Garden, and 1 Breeding Pool that we can also search up with our fetch lands, then 1 Moorland Haunt, which we can use to exile creatures from our graveyard to make spirit tokens, and then 2 Horizon Canopy. If we're flooding out, we can sacrifice them to draw a card, and 3 Botanical Sanctum, which enters the battlefield untapped if it's one of our first 3 lands, and helps us play our more important 1-drops on turn 1, since you usually don't really want to Path to Exile on turn 1. Then going over the sideboard, we have 1 copy of Kataki, War's Wage, which is also a spirit, and helps us against artifact-based decks, 2 Rest in Peace against the graveyard decks, 2 Unified Will against combo and control decks, 2 Stony Silence also against the artifact-based decks, 2 Damping Sphere against Storm and Tron decks, 1 Thalia, which can also come in against decks with a lot of non-creature spells, 3 Geist of St. Traft when we need to speed up our clock and need a way to close out the game quickly, and 2 Worship against decks that can't beat it. Alright, so that's the deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Alright, we're on the play, and this hand seems acceptable. Can lead with a turn 1 Noble, 2 Supreme Phantoms, some interaction with Path to Exile, and Spell Queller, so Pretty ideal hand. Let's see what we're up against. Turn 1 Ether Hub. Usually some sort of combo deck. And a Lightning Bolt, alright. Fair enough. So, definitely a setback here since we could have used the extra acceleration. And a Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, alright, so our opponent's probably on some sort of Aetherworks Marvel combo deck. So we could run out another Supreme Phantom. That seems decent since that way we protect our current Supreme Phantom from something like another Lightning Bolt. Suppose they could have a Harness Lightning to still kill it, but then we have Rattlechains maybe to jump in. So ideally we can keep up Spell Queller to exile a Aetherworks Marvel from the opponent. So we're gonna need that 3rd land as soon as possible. Instead a Selfless Spirit. So I think we're just attacking for 4 and then flashing in Rattlechains end of turn. Opponent currently with 5 energy. So they won't be able to activate Aetherworks Marvel if they play it unless they have another Ether Hub. Well, there's the Ether Hub. And there's the Aetherworks Marvel, which we're unable to counter with our Spell Queller, sadly. Yep, let's see what they hit. They probably have some number of Emeralds in their deck. And instead they found another Aetherworks Marvel, which does net them 2 energy. But they won't be able to activate it this turn at least, so could have been worse. Definitely dodged a bullet there. We'll take 3. And then flash in our Rattlechains. So we are presenting a pretty fast clock here, but our opponent can still gain some life with a Puzzle Knot as well. Another Rattlechains. Alright, let's attack for 8. And next turn our opponent can sacrifice Puzzle Knot, which nets a total of 4 energy thanks to the Aetherworks Marvel's ability. So our opponent gets another shot at finding an Emrakul here. There we go. Instead they find Ancient Stirrings, so dodged another bullet here. And Stirrings finds another Puzzle Knot, so they can potentially still get an activation next turn. So end of turn we'll flash in the Selfless Spirits. And we are representing 12 damage here, so our opponent's actually just dead. Well, definitely got lucky that our opponent didn't find one of their big payoff cards. Alright, so how do we want to sideboard? I imagine our opponent's also playing Through the Breach alongside the Aetherworks Marvel. So Unified Will is probably a good inclusion. We could consider Geist of St. Traft to speed up our clock, but our opponent does have some random creatures they can block with. Stony Silence seems great at countering Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot and Aetherworks Marvel itself. And we could also make a case for Thalia. So what do we cut? I guess Path to Exile is pretty bad in this matchup, so we can easily take that one out. And I guess we'll make room for Thalia and maybe cut one Collected Company since we brought in a bunch of non-creature spells. And the matchup is pretty fast, so might not have time for Company in every game. Well, this hand is not super exciting, but probably still playable. We've got Noble on 1, Selfless Spirit to protect from sweeper effects, which our opponent might have brought in. And then Phantasmal Image can copy Phantom or Spirit. Ideally, we would like to find Stony Silence, Unified Will, or Spell Queller to find the opponent's game plan. As we see, turn 1 Ancient Stirrings finds the Marvel. Alright, so we know they have it in hand. Let's lead with Noble. Opponent just gets a tap land into Attune with Ether, making 2 energy, searching up a mountain. And another Noble. So here I think I like playing another Noble and playing Selfless Spirit to kind of protect us against something like a Kozilek's Return or some other sweeper effect the opponent might have, instead of playing the Supreme Phantom first and then next turn we can go Phantom, copy it with Image. And I would rather play second Noble than attack for 1. So what land do we get? Probably just a Temple Garden. I don't think our life total matters too much. And then next turn we can attack for a healthy amount. If we can go a Supreme Phantom into Phantasmal Image, then we can give our spirits +2 power, plus Exalted, so we're attacking for 6. So that's a 3-turn clock. Opponent does have 4 energy, so next turn they won't be able to activate the Marvel yet. And Rattlechains is also potentially a very good draw. But I think we stick to our plan of Supreme Phantom into Image. The other option we have is sacrificing the Canopy in the hopes of finding a way to counter the Aetherworks Marvel, but we only have 4 Spell Queller, 2 Supreme Will, so we're not very likely to find an answer. So I think we just go for the damage plan. And then play Image over Rattlechains, I think that makes sense. Copy Supreme Phantom. Could have also copied Selfless Spirit, but I think we just want to get in for 6 here. And then we'll play a tapped Hallowed Fountain. And probably next turn sacrifice a Canopy. Alright, opponent has 5 energy, 1 energy short, and there's a Marvel. So you definitely don't want to block the Rogue Refiner, otherwise they'll get an energy for the Marvel. So we'll take 3. Alright, let's start by sacrificing the Canopy. Find Unified Will, perfect. Alright, so I guess we're attacking for 8 here. Alright, so hopefully we can dodge an Emrakul, which would be uncounterable. If they find a Through the Breach, we can counter it. Instead finds a Lightning Bolt on Phantasmal Image, and Rattlechains here of course doesn't work since it's already targeted. So that one goes away. And we still have Unified Will for a Through the Breach. We'll take 3. And do we run out of Rattlechains? I don't think we have to. We'll just untap and find another Rattlechains. And here we can just attack with our Selfless Spirits, which gets in for 5. It's probably safer than attacking with both, although it's close. There's probably reasons to want to attack with both here, but I'll just attack with the Selfless Spirits. Harness Lightning, Rattlechains. Give it Hexproof. And our opponent scoops it up. Alright, managed to beat Aetherworks Marvel onto the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. This hand seems reasonable. Turn 1 Wanderer, turn 2 Spirit, and then 2 Spell Quellers. Up against turn 1 Steam Vents off of a Wooded Foothills. And a Delver of Secrets. And a Bauble, double Bauble. Alright, fair enough. Luckily we have a lot of flying blockers for a transformed Delver of Secrets. So I think we're just getting basic Island here. Preserve our life total. Opponent might also be playing Blood Moons, you never know. Next turn we'll take 2 from the Fountain to play Spirit. And then we can either Spell Queller or Captain. So they might be on a Teamer deck perhaps, fueling their graveyard for Hooting Mandrels instead of the usual Gurmag Anglers. And they reveal Dismember, so they get to transform Delver right away. So we'll take 3 here. And Bolt on the Wanderer. I guess we'll counter it, but of course doesn't matter. Opponent gets basic Mountain for Faithless Looting. Alright. So they definitely want to fill their graveyard for something. Probably a Delve creature, but unclear which one. And they discarded Dismember, so they might not have one in hand anymore, or they have multiple Dismembers. We're just playing Selfless Spirit, and then we've got a million 3-drops to play one after the other. And we might just trade for the Delver of Secrets here, just because our late game is pretty powerful with double Captain, double Spell Queller. They're not going to give us a chance. So we'll take 3 more. And there's the green mana for Tarmogoyf. Also makes sense. Well, Path to Exile was a timely draw. Think we need to path right now in case they play Stubborn Denial. Or we could keep up Spell Queller, hope to catch something, but if we take 5 from Tarmogoyf, then we might be dead, so I think we just path right now. And then next turn, hope to trade for Delver, and then hopefully be able to deploy double Captain. That turn 1 flip Delver definitely did a lot of damage. Double Serum Visions. Put us to 8. And a Company. Alright, I think we're just saying go and then flashing in Spell Queller to trade for the insect. Although I don't have super high hopes that this trade is gonna work. Alright, never mind. Ooh, opponent probably should have bolted before we got the chance to block here. So we managed to prevent 3 damage. Is this another Tarmogoyf for Hooting Mandrills? It looks like a Hooting Mandrills, yep. 4/4 Trampler with Delve. Well, another path, but that means we're taking 3 from Delver of Secrets yet again. Definitely needed a 4th land here. If they could have another Stubborn Denial, so I'm just gonna path Exile in their upkeep, I think. Alright, that works. So we're down to 5 at least, but hopefully they're out of threats. Another Serum Visions. And I have to imagine our opponent's also playing Snapcaster Mages. So a Snapcaster Bolt could represent quite a bit of damage. Is this a Tireless Tracker maybe? Nope, Flashback Faithless Looting. If we find a land, then we might just main phase Collected Company instead of doing anything else. Although it depends on what kind of land it is, since if we have to take 2 or 3 damage, then that's kind of sketchy in the face of Bolt. Discards Mutagenic Growth and Vapor Snag, so their hand must be very stacked. So I don't have high hopes for this. Just have to say go and try to ambush the Delver yet again. Well, let's see if this works. It does, alright. So you got the Delver off the board, but I imagine they'll have some other threat here. No, alright. Get to live for another turn at least. Let's go Noble plus Spirits. And still nothing. Forked Bolts, alright, at least we can sacrifice our Spirit to save the Noble here. So could have been worse. And now we have access to Collected Company, as well as Drogskol Captain. I think we're probably gonna go for Collected Company here, and we'll do it on the opponent's upkeep, I think. In case they have a counterspell, then we force them to tap mana in their own turn, but don't give them the chance of top decking a counterspell. Could also do it end of turn, to represent having something like a Spell Queller up. And not the best company ever, but I'll take it. I guess with Spell Queller in our deck, we should have given more thought to company in response to the opponent casting something. Yeah, that probably would have been better here. So we should have tried to cast company in response to the Delver. As it turns out, we would not have found a Spell Queller anyway. Well, we could play double Drogskol Captain here, which is pretty appealing. Since if this sticks, then we have some hexproof spirits forever. And that worked, and our opponent scoops it up. Alright, so they can't beat double Drogskol Captain. A bit interesting, since they could have potentially still burnt us out, so maybe they're light on lightning bolts after all. So how do we want to sideboard? I'm guessing Worship is going to be decent, although we did see Vapor Snag, and Vapor Snag actually beats Worship. If we get to 1 life, they can just Vapor Snag one of our creatures, and Vapor Snag makes us lose life and doesn't deal damage. So Worship probably not the best idea after all. Yeah, I don't see much we would want to bring in here. I think we just run it back. And I don't think we want to keep a 5-lander with a mana creature. Alright, this is a bit better, but do need to find more lands. So we'll bottom the Captain. And turn 1 Delver again. We do have the path to Exile this time around, but we're still gonna lead with Noble. Delver gets in for 1. And hopefully our Noble survives here. Suppose we could have also considered Rest in Peace, since their opponent is playing both Tarmogoyf and the Delve creature. So maybe a Rest in Peace or two would have been reasonable to bring in. Yeah, I might bring it in for game 3 here. If they only had Goyf, then I don't think Rest in Peace is worth it, but since they have both Goyf, Hooting Mandrills, and cards like Faithless Looting, I think it makes sense. And yeah, Vapor Snag on Noble, pretty effective here. I think we replay it over playing Paths still. But they can't flip the Delver, so the aggressive Vapor Snag not really paying off yet. Gets in for 1. And the second Delver. Untapped Steam Vents. Is this a Tarmogoyf? It is. Alright, that one's probably getting pathed. And do it now in case of Stubborn Denial, you never know. Since it's pretty realistic for the opponent to have kept in Stubborn Denial or boarded it in, given Path and Collected Company. And then we get to play a Wanderer. And then hope to not have those Delvers transform. And draw some lands so we can deploy our cards. Definitely interested in trading a Wanderer for a Delver. Serum Visions from the opponent. Our opponent went top, so likely setting up their Delvers. And another Tarmogoyf, wow. And they are attacking. Well, definitely trading here. Yeah, our opponent reconsiders it and doesn't attack. Alright, land was good here, so now we have access to 3 mana. They're gonna have 2 transformed Delvers and a Tarmogoyf attacking us. It's pretty brutal. We could play Phantom and then try to trade a Wanderer for a Delver, but then if they have removal for the Supreme Phantom, we're in trouble, so it's probably safer to just play the Selfless Spirit here. And try to trade for a Delver. And play a tap Breeding Pool. And I guess we might as well attack with the Wanderer, since we're probably not blocking with it. And if we can find an untapped land next turn for Collected Company, then we might be making a comeback, but it's going to be an uphill battle for sure. Against this 5/6 Tarmogoyf and 2 transformed Delvers. Since we're taking 8 at the very least here. Opponent kept Serum Visions on top. And a Fire Spout from the opponent. Yeah, that's an issue. Guess we might as well force them to tap their mana, but they can pay for it. Alright, so pretty far away from company now. Sanctum was a pretty decent draw, but yeah, so we can play Drogskol Captain, take 5, trade for Delver. I guess that's the plan. And then hope to find an untapped land that doesn't cost us any life, so we can company and try and find blockers for Tarmogoyf. I guess a Path to Exile would also be a reasonable draw, but we already used one of them. And a Flashback Looting. Bolts our Captain, and we're dead. Alright, so definitely bringing in Rest in Peace. I don't know if we want to bring in both Rest in Pieces or just one. I guess both is still okay. We didn't see any Snapcaster Mages yet, but Goyf, Looting, and Mandrills is probably reason enough to want 2. And what do we take out? After seeing our opponent bringing in cards like Fire Spout, probably want to go a bit lower on the mana creatures, which are pretty vulnerable to those effects. I kind of like Phantasmal Image, since it can copy a Tarmogoyf as well if we don't have Rest in Peace. Think I'm leaning towards Wanderer. Would like to be on the play. And this sounds acceptable. Turn 1 Noble. Turn 2 we could already Spell Queller. There's a Bauble, second Bauble, and they're gonna sacrifice one of them. And then Forked Bolt or Noble deal 1 to us. Fair enough. So I guess we'll be casting a Rattlechains instead. So probably want to get a Hallowed Fountain with the Windswept Heath. And then we can get maybe a Plains with the second Windswept. Delver of Secrets. Flash and Rattlechains. And if we can untap, then we might have access to Captain and Spell Queller, both at instant speed, but they're gonna Tarfire it. So that's another creature type for Tarmogoyf, being a tribal card. Alright, so we get to untap. Supreme Phantom's not bad. So let's pass a turn with Spell Queller up. Delver does not transform yet. We could ambush the Delver here. Think I'm fine taking one. Try and catch a spell with our Spell Queller, and then the Captain can kind of protect our Spell Queller in a way. We want to keep our Path to Exile to answer the big green creatures, since we can block the Delver with our flyers. Serum Visions is fine. And Delver of Secrets, I guess we'll Spell Queller now. Alright, get to untap. I did want to play Drogskol Captain main phase here, but accidentally skipped through our first main phase, so we'll just get in for 2. I think I still like playing Drogskol Captain here over Supreme Phantom. So we missed out on 1 damage. And Delver does not transform yet. And with double path in hand, we can deal with their larger ground creatures pretty well. Blood Moon, alright. Did not expect them to bring that card in against us. But we don't really mind since we have 2 basics in play. I guess it prevents us from casting Supreme Phantom for the time being. Selfless Spirit a good draw, so let's attack with our flyers. It's pretty unusual to find out about Blood Moon in game 3. Usually you see it beforehand. Play Spirit, which protects us from cards like Fire Spout. And if these Delvers don't transform, then this game's over, but they do transform. So game's not over yet. And our opponent revealed Vapor Snag, which is pretty effective here, since we won't be able to recast any of our blue cards. Tarmogoyf, yep. Yeah, they might be able to tempo us out here by bouncing a key creature like the Captain, and then just hitting us with their transformed Delvers over and over. So we could definitely consider blocking. So we are threatening lethal on the way back, but with the Vapor Snag we know that's not going to work. So I think we actually want to slow down the game, which means trading. And Rest in Peace was a decent draw too, so that answers the Tarmogoyf problem pretty well. So we'll attack. Opponent's probably going to Vapor Snag here before damage, and we'll only get in for 2. Yep, that works. We could path our own Drogskol Captain here as well, potentially, but then we're not dealing with Tarmogoyf this turn cycle, which is unacceptable. So our opponent takes 2. We'll play a Rest in Peace. One of our better draws here would be a Noble Hierarch, just because that unlocks our blue cards. I guess Basic Island is also pretty high up on our list. Alright, so we would be winning the race here if our opponent doesn't find any burn spells, since our opponent's got a 4-turn clock and we've got a 3-turn clock. And no attacks from the Abomination. Alright, that's good. So now we can just path the Insect attack for 2. Opponent does get to search up another basic land, but I doubt that changes much to the spells they can cast. Opponent down to 3. And the Looting, they only get the front half of it. And the Delver, well, we do have a second path in case Delver transforms. So unless they top deck a removal spell for Spell Queller, we've got this one. Delver does transform, revealing a Lightning Bolt. Oh no. Well, that's unfortunate. So now we probably have to try and path our own Spell Queller here, since we do need that blue mana to unlock our hand. So the problem is, if we attack and trade for the Insectile Aberration, then we don't have a target for our own Path to Exile. So I think we actually just have to say go, wait for the opponent to Lightning Bolt our Spell Queller, and then cast Path to Exile in response. That way we kind of waste the opponent's bolt. So they're bolting Spell Queller, we'll path in response. and get that island. Alright, so now we're racing 2 Delver of Secrets, one of them transformed, one of them not yet. But our opponent is at 1. So hopefully this Delver does not transform. It does not. So we'll take 4 down to 6. And a Sanctum. Alright, so we get to play one of our creatures here. So here I don't think we want to play Supreme Phantom, since if the Delver transforms, they'll have 6 power, and we're forced to chum block, which is not where we want to be. So we either want to play Phantasmal Image copying Insectile Aberration, or we want to play a Drogskol Captain. And I guess we'll play Drogskol Captain here. And say go. There's an off chance that Phantasmal Image can copy something else useful. Or just next turn we can copy the Captain, which would also be pretty decent. And Delver does transform, revealing Serum Vision, so we're forced to trade here. Well, this game's very close. The Blood Moon definitely messed with us in the end, mostly because of the Vapor Snag bouncing the Captain. So we're forced to block here. That to a Lightning Bolt. And a Rattlechains to draw. I guess we prefer Rattlechains to block the Insectile Aberration over Phantasmal Image, since this can dodge Sorcery Speed removal. Well, if we had one more life here, things would be a lot different. I did want to play Drogskol Captain main phase here, but accidentally skipped through our first main phase, so we'll just get in for 2. So we missed out on 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage. Aberration attacks. We'll try to Rattlechains. And yeah, they have the Vapor Snag. Yeah, that's gonna do it. That's unfortunate. Thought we were gonna win this one, but it slipped away. A few timely top decks from the opponent for sure. Alright, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the play. And I don't think we want to keep a 5-lander. Alright, this is better. And we'll keep Captain on top. And then play a tap Temple Garden, say go. So we've got turn 2 Phantom, turn 3 Captain, turn 4 Company if we find a land. Up against turn 1 Island Serum Visions, so it could be any number of blue decks. So we could fetch a basic here. If we're up against blue-white control, we want to keep the basics in our deck to search up in response to Path or Field of Ruin. So I guess I'm okay with a Breeding Pool here. Say go. Alright, blue-black. Unusual combination. Think we're fine playing Captain here. And attack for 2. Alright, let's see what the opponent's up to. Sunken Hollow, so they're a pretty dedicated blue-black. And Snapcaster Serum Visions, that's fine. Well, we get to resolve Collected Company here in a second. And the question is if we want to main phase it or keep it in case we can find a Spell Queller with it. I think we'll keep it, but that also gets worse in the face of counter spells. If we can find a Selfless Spirit, we have some insurance against a card like Damnation. So there's reasons to hold it, there's reasons to play it. I guess we'll keep it since we're kind of pressuring the opponent pretty well here, dealing 5 a turn. And then we can keep the Company as a way to get back on the board in case something bad happens. And Company is also pretty punishing if they try to kill our Captain with a spot removal spell, since we might find another Captain, we might find Rattlechains or Spell Queller, but I'm definitely not 100% sure about this. We'll take 2 from Snapcaster Mage. Also possible we should have fetched main phase, since let's say we want to end of turn the Company, we fetch and then our opponent responds by killing our Captain, and we're unable to cast the Company. Ooh, Lingering Souls instead, so our opponent's on Esper. Now I'm fine getting basic planes and casting Company in response. Opponent does not have Revolt, so they can't Fatal Push our Captain. And we find another Captain, and let's see, what else do we want to get? Another Phantom seems good. Or we could get a Wanderer. Maybe Wanderer is the safest play, protects us from potential Damnation, if that's their sweeper of choice. Since the Wanderer is going to be pretty big here. And I think we let the Lingering Souls resolve. Doesn't really bother me too much. Unless we have lethal on the way back, which we don't. Only hitting for 11. And another company was a great draw. So let's attack. Opponent has to jump at least one spirit here. Probably both. If they just jump with the one spirit, then we can try to company to look for another Anthem effect. Alright, so they take 7 down to 6. That seems fine. We'll say go. Keeping up another company. And there's a Godless Shrine tapped. And this is kind of where the Spirit Dex wants to be, assembling all these synergies that make it very difficult for the opponent to interact with our creatures. And then hopefully we're faster than the opponent. And there's normally cast Lingering Souls, which is not good enough here. So I think we'll let that resolve. And then we can just path one of the tokens if need be. Or we can just company again end of turn. We'll just company for fun here. See what we can hit. And our opponent scoops it up. Alright, that was a pretty great draw for a mulligan to 6. So how do we want to board against Esper Control? Probably want our Unified Wills and our Thalia. And also could make a case for Geist of St. Traft. Does get blocked by Snapcaster Mage, but with both Supreme Phantom and Drogskol Captain pumping Geist, that's no longer an issue. And I don't think we want Rest in Peace, seems a bit too narrow, even though it stops Lingering Souls and Snapcaster Mage. So these 6 cards coming in, taking out Path to Exile, could see cutting a bird in case of sweeper effects, and probably want to go lighter on the Phantasmal Images, in case they just kill all our stuff, then Image doesn't do much. Yeah, we'll try this. Although there's definitely an argument to keeping the Birds of Paradise, since that increases the chances of landing a turn 2 Geist of St. Traft, which is quite powerful in the matchup. So maybe taking out Birds was wrong, and we should have taken out something else, but well, we have Noble into Geist, so can't really ask for a better start. Untapped Hallowed Fountain into Serum Visions. Let's play a Noble. Could have also considered fetching with our Misty Rainforest to thin out the deck of lands, but given that they're Esper and not straight up blue-white control, it's less likely that they're heavy on the Field of Ruins, so showing them that we have the basic in place probably less of a concern, but they're probably still playing Path to Exile. The fact our opponent's playing Serum Visions here means we'll get Resolve or Geist, which is a big game, so let's just run them out there. Opponent can always flash in Snapcaster Mages to try and ambush our Geist, but with the Captain in hand and the Selfless Spirit we can protect our Geist pretty well. And Spirit also gives us something against the sweeper effect, so don't mind our spot here. And there's a Search for Ascanta, which does not affect the board, and no third land, so don't even have to be concerned with a Supreme Verdict next turn. Let's get a Breeding Pool. So we can Drogskol Captain, we can Phantom plus Spirits, Phantom plus Rattlechains. I guess playing Phantom, keeping up Rattlechains is pretty safe here. And we'll attack with our Geist, which does trigger Exalted, which is pretty nice. So we get in for 8. If our opponent did have an extra land in play, then we probably wanted to make sure we could get access to Selfless Spirit in case of a Supreme Verdict. But now we get to keep up Rattlechains. Path goes to the graveyard. Not good enough. So they're probably looking at Lingering Souls here. So can we beat the Lingering Souls? Opponent's got 2 blockers. Don't think we can beat Lingering Souls. Well, if they're leading with Thoughtseize, they don't have access to Lingering Souls, so guess we'll run out the Rattlechains here. And unless their opponent's running a 2-mana sweeper that I don't know about, we should be okay. Takes the Selfless Spirit, and now we have an instant speed Drogskol Captain at the ready. Opponent is fetching for a Watery Grave, untapped. So do they have 2 spot removal spells here? For a Fatal Push on the Noble, that's fair, and that's it. Well, we just have to attack with our creatures and that should do it. Can always flash in the Captain if we need to. And unless their opponent has a weird fog effect or an Angel's Grace, they should be pretty dead. Path on the Phantom. We'll Captain a response just because. And give our Phantom hexproof. And that's gonna do it. Alright, sweet. I wanna thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this gameplay. And as always, have a nice day. I also want to thank all my patrons for supporting the channel, and you can do so yourself as well over at patreon.com/LegenVD, where you get cool rewards for supporting the channel, as well as getting us closer to our goals, where with every goal reached, we will release an additional weekly series. So if you want to see more content, Patreon is the place to go.